In the far reaches of the galaxy, there was a powerful empire known as the Althari. Their ships ruled the stars, their armies feared across systems, but now they were afraid, not of an enemy outside, but of something inside their own palace. At the center of this fear was Princess Lyra, the only heir to the throne. She was known across the empire as the Silent One, because she had not spoken a single word in years. She was not weak, she was not sick, and she was not broken. Yet something about her presence made even the strongest warriors uneasy. Every night, when she closed her eyes, something terrible happened. Entire cities in the empire began to collapse. Energy systems failed, ships lost control, and strange signals spread across the network, as if a hidden war was being fought somewhere no one could see. The scientists studied everything. They scanned her brain, her energy, her dreams, and what they found made them afraid. "There is a war inside her mind," one of them said, his voice shaking. A war. Not a dream, not imagination, but a real, active battlefield, hidden inside her consciousness. Even worse, it was growing. The Emperor ordered the best mind divers in the galaxy to enter her mind and stop whatever was inside. One by one, they tried, and one by one, they failed. None of them returned. Their bodies remained, but their minds were gone, completely erased, like they had never existed. After that, no one volunteered again. The princess was placed in a sealed chamber, deep inside the palace, guarded at all times, not to protect her, but to protect everyone else. She sat there every day, calm and silent, her eyes empty, her face peaceful, as if nothing was wrong. But everyone knew something inside her was watching, waiting. Years passed, and the fear only grew stronger. Then one day, something unexpected happened. A human arrived. Humans were new to the galaxy, small, weak compared to other species, not known for great power or advanced minds. Most alien races did not take them seriously. The guards stopped him at the palace gate, confused why a human would come here. "I want to help," he said, his voice steady. They laughed at him. "Help?" One guard said, "Do you even understand what is happening here?" The human nodded, "Yes, and I still want to try." Word quickly reached the Emperor, and soon, the human stood in the Great Hall, surrounded by alien leaders, scientists, and warriors, all looking at him with doubt. "You wish to enter her mind?" The Emperor asked, his voice cold. "Yes," the human replied. "Many stronger than you have tried." None returned. "I know. Then why would you risk your life?" The human paused for a moment, then said something unexpected. "Because no one should fight alone." The room fell silent. Some laughed quietly. Others shook their heads, thinking this was foolish. "A human mind will break in seconds," one scientist said. "Maybe," the human replied, "but maybe not." The Emperor watched him carefully, studying his face. There was no fear, no hesitation, just calm determination. Finally, after a long silence, the Emperor gave the order, "Prepare the connection." The guards led the human down into the deepest level of the palace, where the princess was kept. The chamber doors slowly opened. Inside, Princess Lyra sat on a simple platform, her long silver hair falling over her shoulders, her eyes staring into nothing. She looked peaceful, almost like she was asleep, but the air around her felt heavy, like a storm waiting to begin. The human stepped closer, his heart beating faster, but he did not stop. "This is your last chance to walk away," a scientist warned. The human shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "Open the door." Machines activated. Energy fields surrounded them, and a connection formed between his mind and hers. For a moment, everything went dark. Then suddenly, he opened his eyes, and he was no longer in the chamber. He stood in the middle of a ruined world. The sky was burning, the ground was broken, and in the distance, endless war was raging. Explosions echoed, shadows moved, and something unseen filled the air with fear. The human took a slow breath, looking around, trying to understand. "This is her mind," he whispered, and far ahead, in the center of the destruction, he saw her, the silent princess. Standing alone then, slowly, she turned her head toward him, and for the first time in years, she spoke. "Run." The burning sky did not move. The air felt heavy, like the whole world was holding its breath. The human stood still, his heart beating fast, but his feet did not move. The princess had spoken only one word, "Run," but he did not listen. Instead, he looked around carefully, trying to understand where he was. Broken buildings stretched across the land, the ground was cracked, and strange shadows moved in the distance, like something was alive but hiding. Explosions echoed far away, but there were no clear enemies, no visible army, only destruction. "This is not normal," the human said quietly. He took one step forward, then another, moving toward the princess. She stood in the center of it all, completely still, her silver hair moving slightly in the hot wind, her eyes calm but deep, like she had seen this war 1,000 times. "Why are you still here?" she asked, her voice soft but cold. The human stopped a few steps away from her. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "No one can help here," she replied. "Everyone who tried disappeared." "I know," the human said, "but I am still here." For a moment, she said nothing, just watching him, like she was trying to understand something she had never seen before. Then suddenly, the ground shook. A deep sound echoed across the sky, not like an explosion, but something darker, something alive. The human turned quickly, scanning the area. "What was that?" he asked. The princess did not answer right away. Instead, she looked toward the distant shadows, her face becoming serious. "It found you," she said quietly. "Who found me?" the human asked. Before she could answer, something changed. The shadows in the distance began to move faster, stretching across the broken land like black waves. The air grew colder, even though the sky was burning. A strange whisper filled the space, not a voice, but many voices at once, speaking words that could not be understood. The human felt it, something pressing against his mind, trying to enter, trying to break through. He closed his eyes for a second, taking a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "What is this thing?" he said, his voice lower now. The princess finally spoke. "It is the war," she said. "It is not a creature, not a soldier, not something you can fight like normal," she said. "Then what is it?" She looked at him again, her expression serious. "It is fear." The human frowned slightly. "Fear does not destroy cities," he said. "This one does," she replied. This time, the human reacted, jumping to the side as the black force passed through where he had been standing, leaving nothing behind, not even dust. He looked at the ground, shocked. "That thing." "It erased everything," he said. The princess nodded. "It erases minds," she said. The human's chest tightened slightly, but he forced himself to stay steady. "Then why is it not attacking you?" he asked. She turned away for a moment. "Because it is part of me." The human froze. "What do you mean?" But before she could explain, the whispers grew louder. The darkness began to rise, forming shapes not clear, but massive, like something was trying to take form. The human stepped back, watching carefully. "This is not just fear," he said. "This is something else." The princess did not respond, but her hand slowly clenched, like she was preparing for something. The shadows twisted, rising higher, forming a giant figure, its shape unstable, changing every second. Eyes appeared, then disappeared. Mouths opened, then vanished. It was not one thing, it was many, and all of it was wrong. The human felt pressure again in his head, stronger this time, like something was trying to pull him apart from inside. He dropped to one knee for a second, holding his head. "Stay focused," the princess said sharply. "I am trying," he replied, breathing heavily. "Do not let it see your fear," she said. The human looked up at the massive shadow. "Too late," he said. The creature stopped moving for a moment. Then slowly it turned toward him, not toward the princess, toward him. The air went completely silent. The whispers stopped, everything froze, and then the creature moved, faster than anything he had ever seen. The human barely had time to react before the darkness reached him. But just as it was about to touch him, The princess stepped forward, placing herself between him and the creature. The impact shook the entire world. A wave of energy exploded outward, throwing the human back across the ground. He struggled to stand, his vision blurry. When he looked up again, he saw something impossible. The princess was holding the creature back, her body surrounded by light, her expression no longer calm, but focused, strong. For the first time, she looked like a warrior. "You should have left," she said, her voice filled with tension. The human slowly stood up, wiping blood from his lip. "No," he said. The creature roared without sound, its shape growing larger, stronger, feeding on the moment. The ground began to break again, the sky splitting apart. The princess looked back at him for a second. "This is only the beginning," she said. The human took a deep breath, standing his ground. "Good," he replied, "because I am not leaving." The creature suddenly stopped struggling. Its shape became more stable, more real. And then, slowly, for the first time, it revealed a face. And what the human saw was not just a monster. It was something far worse. Something that looked like it knew him. The creature's face did not stay still. It shifted again and again, like it could not decide what it truly was. For a moment, it looked like a stranger, then suddenly it changed. The human's breath stopped, because now it looked like him. Not exactly the same, but close enough to feel wrong, like a broken reflection in dark water. "What is this?" he whispered, taking a slow step back. The princess did not look surprised. "It sees your mind now," she said, her voice tense. "It learns. It copies. It uses what it finds." The creature tilted its head, watching him, studying him. Its empty eyes felt deeper than space, like they could pull him in. Then the whispers returned, louder than before. This time they were clearer, not random sounds, but words. His words. Doubts he had never spoken, fears he had buried deep inside, memories he tried to forget. "You are not strong enough," the voices said. "You will fail like the others. You should have stayed away." The human clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "No," he said under his breath. But the creature stepped closer, and the pressure inside his mind grew stronger. Images flashed in front of his eyes, fast and painful. Moments from his past, mistakes, losses, fear, all forced to the surface. He dropped to one knee again, struggling to breathe. The ground beneath him began to crack, reacting to his thoughts. "Stand up," the princess said sharply. "If you fall here, you will never wake up." "I know," he replied, his voice shaking. "But this thing, it is inside my head." "It is inside every mind it touches," she said. "That is how it grows." The creature moved again, now slower, more controlled. It was no longer wild, it was learning. Adapting, becoming stronger with every second. The human forced himself to stand, his legs heavy, but steady. He looked directly at the creature, even though every instinct told him not to. "You are not real," he said. The creature stopped. The whispers paused. Then suddenly it smiled. A twisted, unnatural smile. "Real enough," it replied, its voice echoing from everywhere at once. The human's eyes widened. It had spoken, not just sounds, but clear words. "That is new," the human said, trying to stay calm. The princess stepped closer to him, her expression serious. "It has never spoken like that before," she said quietly. "It is evolving." The creature's form grew more stable, its shape becoming darker, sharper, more defined. The sky above cracked again, like glass breaking slowly. "You brought something new," the creature said, its voice now clearer. "Something different." The human felt the weight of those words. "What do you want?" he asked. The creature tilted its head again. "Freedom," it said simply. The ground shook violently. Far away, entire sections of the broken world collapsed into darkness. The human glanced around, realizing something important. "This place is breaking faster," he said. "Yes," the princess replied. "It is feeding on this moment, on you." The human barely reacted in time, stepping back as the air split where he had been standing. "You cannot escape," the creature said. "I do not need to escape," the human replied, breathing hard. "I came here for a reason." The creature leaned closer, its face inches away from his. "And what reason is that?" it asked. The human did not look away. "To stop you." For a second, everything went silent again. Then the creature laughed, a deep echoing sound that shook the sky. "You?" it said. "A single human?" The human did not respond immediately. Instead, he took a deep breath, calming his thoughts, pushing the noise away. "I may be human," he said slowly, "but I am not alone here." The creature's smile faded slightly. It looked past him, toward the princess. She was already watching, her eyes focused, her body surrounded by a faint light again. "You are still fighting," the human said to her. She nodded once. "I never stopped," she replied. The creature's form began to shake slightly, reacting to something unseen. The human noticed it. "You are afraid too," he said. The creature froze. The whispers stopped again. "That is impossible," it said, its voice sharper now. "You are fear," the human continued. "But that means you can feel it." The princess looked at him quickly, understanding what he was trying to do. "Do not push it too far," she warned. But the human stepped forward instead. "If you were truly unstoppable, you would have already won," he said. The creature's form cracked for a moment, like something unstable inside it reacted. "This war has been going on for years," the human continued. "And she is still here," he pointed at the princess. "That means you have not won." The ground shook violently again, stronger than before. The sky split open further, light and darkness colliding. The creature let out a sound, not quite a roar, not quite a scream. "You know nothing," it said. "Maybe," the human replied. "But I know one thing." He stepped closer, standing directly in front of it. "You are not as strong as you think." For a brief moment, something changed. The creature hesitated, just for a second, but that second was enough. The princess moved instantly, her energy flaring brighter than before. She raised her hand, and the light around her exploded forward, striking the creature directly. The impact shattered the ground beneath them, sending shockwaves across the entire world. The creature was pushed back, its form breaking apart again. The human was thrown to the side, hitting the ground hard. When he looked up, breathing heavily, he saw the princess standing tall, her power rising. For the first time, the battlefield was not completely controlled by the darkness. But it was not over, not even close. Because as the creature reformed again, slower this time, it began to change once more. Its shape shrinking, becoming more focused, more precise. And then, it did something unexpected. It split into multiple forms, dozens of shadows, each moving differently, surrounding them from every direction. The human slowly stood up, looking around. "This just got worse," he said quietly. The princess stepped beside him, her voice calm but serious. "No," she said. "This is where it becomes dangerous." The battlefield inside the mind changed again. But this time it was not destruction that came first, it was silence, a deep, unnatural silence that spread across the broken world like a blanket, stopping even the sound of the wind. The dozens of shadow forms stopped moving at once, frozen in place as if waiting for something unseen. The human stood still, his breathing slow but controlled. Watching carefully. "This feels wrong," he said quietly. The princess did not answer immediately, her eyes scanning the frozen battlefield. Then she spoke, her voice lower than before. "It is not attacking. It is remembering." The human frowned. "Remembering what?" The princess looked down for a moment, her expression changing slightly, something almost like sadness passing through her face. "Me," she said simply, before the human could respond. The ground beneath them shifted, and the world around them changed again. The broken war zone faded slowly, like a painting being washed away. In its place appeared something new. A large, empty space, clean, silent, and bright. No fire, no shadows, no war. Just an endless white horizon stretching in every direction. The human looked around in confusion. "What is this place?" he asked. The princess stepped forward slowly, her movements careful. "This is not the war," she said. "This is before it began." The human looked at her. "Trying to understand, you mean?" "Your memory." She nodded. The silence here felt different, not heavy like before, but empty. Like something had been removed, then slowly shapes began to appear in the distance. Not monsters, not soldiers, but people. Scientists, healers, and guards. All moving calmly in a peaceful environment. And at the center of it all, a younger version of the princess. She looked different, softer, less distant. The human watched carefully, realizing he was seeing her past. "What happened here?" he asked quietly. The princess did not take her eyes off the scene. "This is where I was created," she said. The human blinked. "Created?" She nodded again. "They did not call it birth," she continued. "They called it design." The memory shifted, showing advanced machines, glowing chambers, and scientists speaking in urgent tones. The younger princess sat inside a large glass-like structure, surrounded by energy fields. She was not crying, not moving, just observing everything silently. "They wanted a perfect mind," the princess said, her voice steady but distant. "A mind that could control systems, predict wars, and connect to every neural network in the empire." The human listened carefully. "But something went wrong," he said. She paused for a moment. "No," she replied softly. "Something went right. Too right." The memory shifted again, showing rapid growth in her abilities. Systems reacting instantly to her thoughts. Entire networks responding to her emotions. But then, something changed. The systems began to overload. Breaking under pressure, reality simulations collapsing. People panicking. Fear started to grow around her, not inside her, but from others watching her power. "They were afraid of me," the princess said quietly, "and fear does not stay outside forever." The human slowly understood. "So the war inside your mind," he said. She finished his sentence. "Was born from their fear." The white world around them began to darken slightly, as if reacting to the memory. The human looked around, feeling a strange pressure building again. "And the thing we fought," he said. The princess nodded. "It is not just fear anymore," she said. "It is everything they pushed into me and could not control." The memory shifted again, faster this time, showing isolation, containment, and failed attempts to shut down her mind. Each failure made the force inside her stronger, more unstable, until finally, something broke. A sudden flash of darkness appeared in the memory, and the peaceful world collapsed into chaos. The human stepped back instinctively. "That is when the war started," he said. The princess closed her eyes for a moment. "Yes," she said softly, "and I have been holding it ever since." The human looked at her differently now, not just as a victim, but as someone carrying something too large for any mind to hold. "You were alone," he said. She opened her eyes slowly. "I was always alone." The white space around them began to crack, like glass under pressure. The memory world was becoming unstable again, and then a new voice appeared. Not from the shadows this time, but from everywhere at once. "You are not alone anymore," it said. The human immediately looked around. The princess's expression changed sharply. "It is here," she said. The memory space began to distort. The white horizon breaking into fragments. Darkness started to leak in from the edges again. Slowly but steadily, the human stepped closer to the princess. "What is it doing now?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. Because something was wrong. The shadows from before were gone. But something worse was forming. Not attacking, not chasing, learning. Adapting from the memory itself. "It is inside this place now," she said quietly. The human clenched his fists. "Then we stop it here," he said. The princess looked at him, uncertainty for the first time visible in her eyes. "This is not like before," she warned. The human nodded slowly. "I know," he said. "But now we understand it." The ground beneath them cracked again, and the memory world began to collapse. As the darkness rose, the human took a step forward, standing between it and the princess. For the first time, he was not just inside her mind, he was standing inside her past, her pain, and her creation. And the war was no longer just inside her. It was learning how to enter reality itself. The memory world was breaking apart faster now. Like reality itself could not hold the pressure anymore. White space cracked into black fractures, and silence turned into a low, unstable hum. The human stood still for a moment, watching everything collapse around them, but he did not move back. Instead, he stepped forward again, closer to the princess. "This thing is learning too fast," he said quietly. The princess looked at the spreading darkness, her expression tense. "It is not just learning," she replied. "It is adapting to us." A deep vibration passed through the ground, and the broken memory world shifted again, becoming unstable, unpredictable. Shadows rose slowly from the cracks, but they were different now. More organized, more focused, as if they had a purpose instead of chaos. The human noticed it immediately. "They are not random anymore," he said. The princess nodded once. "It is forming strategy." The air around them grew heavier, and suddenly images began to appear in the distance. Not memories this time, but projections of the human himself. The human took a slow breath, trying to stay focused. "Interesting," he said quietly. "It thinks showing me myself will break me." The princess turned to him. "Will it?" she asked. "But it means it still does not understand humans." The shadows reacted instantly, shifting, twisting, forming a single massive shape again. But this time it did not look random. It looked like it was built from everything it had learned. Fear, memory, emotion, and thought all combined into one unstable intelligence. The princess stepped slightly forward, her energy beginning to rise again. "It is growing faster than before," she said. "Then we slow it down." She glanced at him. "How?" The human paused for a second, then looked at the shifting creature. "By stopping it from learning." The human shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "You are what we fear." The creature moved closer, the ground trembling beneath it. "And fear is truth," it said. The princess suddenly stepped forward, her voice firm. "No," she said sharply. The creature stopped again for a brief moment, reacting to her words. The human noticed it immediately. "It is still unstable. So it can still be disrupted." She looked at him carefully. "Yes," she said, "but not easily." The creature began to expand again, growing larger, more defined, its voice echoing louder through the collapsing space. "You both cannot stop what has already begun," it said. The human clenched his fists. Then the creature responded, copying his movement, stepping forward as well. It was learning him in real time. The human noticed something else now. It was not just copying actions, it was copying intent. "That is the problem," he said quietly. The princess closed her eyes for a moment, focusing. "If it reads us," she said slowly, "then we change what we are." The human looked at her, understanding forming. "You mean?" "Unpredictable behavior," she nodded. "Something it cannot map." Then the human did something unexpected. A small, calm laugh, completely out of place in the collapsing world. The creature froze. The princess looked at him, slightly confused. "What are you doing?" she asked. The human shook his head slightly, still smiling. "I am breaking its pattern," he said. "It cannot process randomness like that," she said. The human nodded. "Exactly." The creature shifted again, trying to stabilize itself. "You are delaying the inevitable," it said. The human stepped closer. "No," he said calmly. The princess raised her hand, energy forming around her again. But now it was different, more controlled, more precise. The creature's form trembled slightly, reacting to both of them together. The human looked at her. "Now," he said. She nodded, and together they moved. The princess released a focused wave of energy, not destruction, but disruption, aimed at the creature's structure. At the same time, The human stepped forward mentally, focusing his thoughts, deliberately changing patterns, memories, emotions, everything the creature was trying to read. For the first time, the creature hesitated for more than a second. Its massive form flickered violently, breaking apart and reforming, unable to stabilize fully. The entire memory world shook, fragments collapsing, reality tearing at the edges. The creature's voice became unstable. "This is not possible," it said. The human looked directly at it. "You are inside a mind," he said, "and minds are never stable." The princess turned slightly toward him. "It is weakening," she said. And instead, it turned inward. The ground beneath them began to collapse faster, and the darkness stopped spreading outward. Instead, it started gathering in one point. The human frowned. "What is it doing?" "It is compressing itself." The creature's voice echoed one final time, calm and terrifying. "I will become something you cannot survive." And then, everything went still again. But this silence was different, because now, it was not watching anymore. It was preparing. The silence did not feel empty this time. It felt like pressure, like the entire mind space was holding its breath before something massive happened. The human stood still, his eyes scanning the collapsing memory world, but nothing moved anymore. Even the princess felt it, her energy slowly fading into a controlled calm. "It is not attacking," she said quietly. "It is changing form completely." The human frowned. Changing into what? Before she could answer, the ground beneath them cracked open again. But this time there was no explosion, no shadows rising. Only a single point of darkness forming deep below, like a star being born in reverse. Everything in the memory world began to pull toward it. Buildings, light, fragments of thoughts, even sound itself. "It is collapsing everything into one core," the princess said, her voice tense. The human looked down at the growing black point. "That sounds like it is trying to escape." The princess shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "It is trying to become whole." A deep vibration spread through the entire space, stronger than anything before. The world was no longer breaking randomly. It was being rewritten, reshaped into a single unstable structure. The human stepped closer to the princess. "If that thing becomes whole, what happens?" he asked. She hesitated for a moment. "Then it stops being inside me," she said quietly. The human understood instantly and becomes real. She nodded once. The darkness below them began to rise slowly, but it was no longer a creature. It was something more focused, more terrifying, like pure intent given form. The human clenched his fists. "Then we stop it here," he said firmly. The princess looked at him, uncertainty mixing with determination in her eyes. "We have never fought it like this before," she said. The human responded immediately. "Then it is time we stop fighting it the old way." The darkness rose higher, and for the first time, there was no distortion, no confusion, only clarity. A single massive presence forming from all collected fear, memory, and adaptation. It spoke again, but this time its voice was calm, almost human. "You tried to understand me," it said. "But understanding leads to survival." The princess stepped forward slightly, her voice sharp. "You are not survival," she said. "You are corruption." The entity paused for a moment, as if considering her words. Then it responded, "I am what remains when control fails." The human looked at it carefully. "You are what happens when fear grows without limit," he said. The entity turned slightly toward him. "And you are the interruption." The ground trembled again, but this time it was controlled, precise, like the entire space was tightening around them. The human felt it, pressure building inside his mind again. But he did not step back. Instead, he focused. "This thing is not thinking like before," he said. "It is not learning anymore." The princess nodded slowly. "It has finished learning," she said. The human looked at her quickly. "Then what is it doing?" She answered softly, "It is deciding." The entity began to rise fully from the darkness, no longer shapeless, no longer shifting, Now it had structure, form, and intent. It was not copying anymore, it was choosing. And what it chose was terrifying. The entire memory world started to compress inward, pulling both of them closer to the center. The human struggled slightly against the pressure. "This is worse than before," he said. The princess raised her hand again, trying to stabilize the space, but even her power was being pulled inward. "It is collapsing everything into one decision point," she said. The human looked at her. "A final form," she nodded. "Yes." The entity's voice filled the space again, stronger now. "You cannot stop what you have already created." The princess shook her head. "I did not create you," she said firmly. The entity paused, then replied, "Then why do I know your fear better than you do?" The human stepped forward, now standing between the princess and the growing darkness. "Because you were born from it," he said. The entity moved closer, its presence becoming overwhelming. "And you," it said, turning toward him, "are not part of this system." The human nodded slightly. "No," he said. "I am not," the entity responded instantly. "Then you do not belong here." A wave of force pushed outward, trying to remove him from the space entirely. But the human stayed, struggling but steady. The princess realized something in that moment. "It cannot fully define you," she said quickly. The human looked at her. "Because I am not from this mind," he replied. The entity reacted sharply, its form tightening, more focused now. "Then you are an error," it said. The human shook his head. "No," he said calmly. "I am resistance." The princess stepped forward again, standing beside him now. "And resistance breaks systems," she added. For the first time the entity hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but enough. The human noticed it immediately. "There," he said. "It is not perfect." The princess understood. "It still reacts," she said. The entity's form flickered slightly, trying to stabilize. But the compression had slowed, even if only slightly. The human took a deep breath. "Then we do not destroy it," he said. The princess looked at him sharply. "Then what?" The human's eyes stayed fixed on the entity. "We force it to exist fully." She paused, understanding forming slowly. "If it becomes fully real," she said, "it loses control inside the mind." The human nodded. "And we fight it where it cannot rewrite reality." The entity seemed to sense the shift in strategy. Its calmness broke slightly. "You cannot move me," it said. The human smiled faintly. "We are not moving you," he said. "We are pulling you out." The princess raised both hands now, energy forming into a stable structure on the entity, not attacking, but anchoring. The human focused his mind completely, forcing connection, locking onto its existence. The entire space trembled violently. The entity tried to resist, but for the first time, it was being held in place, not by force alone, but by understanding of its structure. And slowly, painfully, the boundary between mind and reality began to thin. The princess whispered, "If this works, it will change everything." The human replied quietly, "Then let it change." And the darkness began to move, not away, not forward, but out. The boundary between mind and reality trembled like glass under impossible pressure. Everything inside the princess's consciousness had become unstable, like two worlds trying to occupy the same space. The human stood firm, his mind locked onto the entity, refusing to let go. The princess was beside him, both hands raised, holding the collapsing structure together with pure mental force. "It is working," she said quietly, but her voice carried strain. The entity was no longer just inside the mind. It was halfway between existence and imagination, pulling itself out against resistance. The darkness twisted violently, no longer smooth or controlled, but broken and raw. "You are forcing a transition," the entity said, its voice unstable now. "This will destroy both states." The human replied without hesitation, "Then stop fighting it." The entity reacted instantly, surging forward, trying to pull itself back into full control. But the princess tightened her grip, her energy forming a structured cage around it, not to destroy it, but to contain its shape. "This is the only way," she said firmly. The human focused harder, pushing his awareness deeper into the entity's core. He was not fighting it anymore. He was anchoring it. "Everything that exists must choose a form," he said quietly. "You cannot stay in fear forever." For a brief moment, everything stopped. The entity froze completely, as if those words had reached something deeper than logic. Then something changed. The collapsing space around them went silent again, but this silence was different, heavier, final. The entity spoke one last time, but its voice was no longer aggressive. "It is unfamiliar," it said slowly. The princess looked at the human. "This is the moment," she whispered. The human nodded once. "Now," he said. The princess released the final stabilization wave, not forceful, but absolute, locking the structure in place. The human pushed his consciousness fully forward, completing the connection, forcing the transition point to stabilize. For a moment, everything went completely white. No war, no shadows, no memory, no fear, just silence, pure and absolute then. Reality snapped. The human gasped as his body jerked forward, his eyes opening suddenly in the real world. Cold air rushed into his lungs, and the sharp glow of the containment chamber surrounded him. He was back, but he was not alone. Across from him, the princess was still in the chamber, but something had changed. Her body was no longer just sitting still. A faint energy field surrounded her, flickering between stability and release. And in the center of the chamber, a dark structure hovered in containment, no longer a chaotic shadow, but a defined, unstable form. The entity had been pulled out. Scientists and guards rushed in immediately, alarms flashing across the facility. "This is impossible," one of them shouted. "It should not exist outside the neural link." But the human stood up slowly, breathing heavily. "It does now," he said calmly. The princess opened her eyes for the first time fully awake, not in dream, not in memory, but in reality. Her gaze met the human's, and for a moment, there was no war inside them anymore, only awareness. "You brought it out," she said quietly. The human nodded. "Not alone," he replied. She looked toward the hovering entity, now contained but still alive in form. "And now it exists in both worlds," she said. The scientists began running scans, but the readings were beyond comprehension, fluctuating between neural, quantum, and unknown states. The emperor entered the chamber moments later, his expression unreadable. "So," he said slowly, looking at the entity. "It is real now." The human stepped forward slightly. "It was always real," he said. "We just gave it shape." The princess turned to the emperor. "It cannot return fully inside me anymore," she said. "That connection is broken." The emperor remained silent for a long moment, studying everything carefully. Finally, he spoke. "Then what is it now?" The human looked at the floating entity. "It is something new," he said. "Not just fear, not just mind. Something in between." The entity flickered slightly, responding to his presence. "I am still here," it said softly. But its voice was no longer threatening, just uncertain. The princess stepped closer to the containment field. "For the first time," she said quietly. "It is not controlling me," the human nodded. "And you are not controlling it." A strange silence filled the room, but this time it was not fear, it was possibility. The emperor finally gave a slow nod. "Then we study it," he said. "No," the human replied immediately. "Not study." He looked at the entity. "Understand." The entity shifted slightly in its containment, reacting to the word. "Understand," it repeated, as if testing it. The princess turned toward the human. "And what happens now?" she asked. The human looked at both her and the entity. Now no longer enemies, but connected by something unstable and new. "We decide what it becomes," he said quietly. The lights in the chamber flickered slightly, as if the entire system itself was reacting to those words. Outside, alarms slowly began to stop. Not because danger was gone, but because something had changed. The war was not over, but it had entered a new phase. And for the first time in history, humanity and the Empire were not facing destruction. They were facing understanding.